I'm at the Steamrolla Frevola. I am 8-1-1 as a professional, and I'm fighting for the UFC. I've always been a competitor. I've got a twin brother back home. We've been competing since we were young. I've always been an athlete. Football, wrestling, lacrosse, all growing up. And once I was done playing, I played a little college football, a little college lacrosse. Ended up getting kicked off the lacrosse team, and then found jiu-jitsu. I was home for about 4 or 5 months doing jiu-jitsu at Sarah's, and then I transferred to the University of Tampa, and the front desk guys at Sarah BJJ told me Matt Arroyo had a gym down in Tampa, because Matt Arroyo was on the Ultimate Fighter with Sarah, and then walked into Grace Tampa South as soon as I got down to Tampa, and I was on the mats, and I met Billy Q. He was one of those guys doing jiu-jitsu with MMA gloves on, and he had one amateur fight at the time, and he was from New York, I was from New York, and we hit it off there and been training ever since. When I was down in Tampa, I always knew I wanted to fight, and I told him right away. I had 4 or 5 months of jiu-jitsu. I had wrestling experience from high school, and I knew I wanted to fight. And they had amateur fighters who needed sparring partners. So I stepped right up and was sparring with all the fighters, all the amateur fighters at Grace Tampa South, getting them ready for their fights, going through the whole fight camp with them, and eventually I started getting fights of my own. I moved up to New York about 3 years ago from Tampa, and moved back home to Long Island. And I was actually recovering from ankle surgery, it was a rough recovery. It took way longer than I thought. And when I moved back home to Long Island, I was rehabbing my ankle. It was finally starting to feel better, and I actually signed a contract to fight for Ring of Combat, and I was preparing for that. And then Arroyo called me and said Contender Series gave us the call. So I told Longo. Longo was pumped, and I knew it was my shot, and I knew I was going to make the most of it. After my fight, I knew I was in. I knew I was the featured bout on that Contender Series. I knew, it was a good fight. I got a great finish against a 7-0 guy, undefeated guy. So I knew that I was going to get in. Back off that, I got a fight at Madison Square Garden, and being a kid from Long Island, it really doesn't get bigger than that. And against a real skilled, experienced opponent like Lando, it was huge. And I trained my ass off for that. I went in there, and I knew that no matter what, I was gonna fight my heart out and give everything I had and leave everything I had into that octagon. And that's what I